The mosaic works collected in the apse behind the altar are at the same time a celebration of civil and religious power, as they depict, although in different frameworks, both the imperial pair and the creator of the world. You can ideally find some sort of connection between the figure of Moses, depicted on 3 occasions in the Basilica, that of the emperor and that of God. As the prophet led the people of Israel to the promised land after receiving the 10 Commandments, in the same way is the emperor the ferryman of the people towards salvation through the law. In this way, the emperor of the East and his wife rise to an even higher level, becoming privileged interlocutors with the Almighty. The mosaics in the apse bowl represents Jesus Christ sitting on a celestial globe. The globe does not represent our planet, as one might be led to think. On the other hand, the first images of the Earth seen from space can be traced back to the second half of the 20th century. It is rather a concrete representation of the sky, according to the words of the prophet Isaiah. "Thus saith the Lord, Heaven is my throne, and the earth the stool of my feet." The figure is very elegant, wrapped in the most sacred Byzantine iconography. The gold, the color of royalty, and the purple of transcendence and holiness. He is holding a crown in his hand and a scroll with 7 seals, as indicated by the Apocalypse in the other one. At the bottom of the dress, the letter Z is revealed, probably indicating Zoe, that is, life in Greek. Beneath the blue globe, 4 rivers unravel, possible allusion to the evangelists. Beside him 2 angels holding on an arm the stick of silenziari, that served precisely to silence the assemblies. Both are caught in the act of introducing 2 distinct figures to Christ. On the left side, you can see St. Vitalis, his hands covered with a highly decorated cloak, while accepting the crown Christ is handing him. On the other side, Bishop Ecclesias, promoter of the Basilica, presents the model of the building to the Almighty. The wall composition has a golden background, dotted with red and blue curls, and there is also a lush garden. Everything is indicating that you are in another world, an Eden. Please note also that the celestial globe, where the Creator sits, does not rest on earth, but is separated from it by a thin gold insert, a tangible sign of the divine nature. Shifting your gaze to the left, you will cross the great representation of the court of the Emperor Justinian. The plastic representation of bodies is typically Byzantine, flattened on the 2 dimensions. The golden background strongly contributes to crush the figures, taking them off any spatial or temporal situation. The emperor in the center, like Christ in the apse bowl mosaic, wears purple vestments and has a halo testifying that his figure has both a religious and legal function. To complete the rich robe, a golden chlamys is included, embroidered with duck-shaped subjects. The animal also appears on his right shoulder near the circular buckle. Probably the duck symbol, or goose, it is not clear, had to do with the military life. In the image of St. Vitalis, who came from the ranks of the army, there is the same picture in the tab on the right shoulder. . The character's face, on the other hand, is clearly in the Roman style, whose aesthetics was characterized by the interest in details. The mosaic artist was very likely to have studied the features of the portrayed characters in detail. Justinian, in the middle, holds a golden baton with bread, symbolizing Christ's body, in his hand. To his right, you can see his representative in Italy, Bishop Maximian, who inaugurated the Basilica. Between them, according to the tradition, you can see the banker Julius Argentarius, and on the left, the trusty General Belisarius. On the far right, there are the imperial dignitaries holding the scripture and a censer, and on the left you can see the barbarian soldiers enlisted in the imperial ranks. Although they are wearing colorful clothes, their face is formulaic, as to represent the multitude of the people. Opposite the mosaic showing the emperor, there is that of his wife, Empress Theodora. Former circus dancer and prostitute, as stated by the historian Procopius of Caesarea, she rose to the imperial ranks thanks to the meeting with Justinian that made her immortal. In this mosaic, she is celebrated as her husband. Just like him, she is dressed in rich purple vestments, and her head is surrounded by a halo. Unlike Justinian, she is inserted inside a niche dominated by a shell, a possible indication that perhaps the woman was already dead when she was portrayed. In confirmation of this theory, you can see the servant on the left, offset in a tent and likely to introduce the Empress in a different environment with a nearby fountain. The Empress, like her husband, is holding the chalice of Christ's blood, and the subject of the provision is repeated in the lower part of the rich vestment, where the three kings are depicted. The two women on the right, both very elegantly dressed, are traditionally supposed to be Antonina and Giovannina respectively, the wife and daughter of General Belisarius. As the other mosaic, this one also represents stereotyped figures with glassy look, representing the women at the court of Theodora.